I have mentioned in my previous video that the Chapter 1 of research paper has essential elements such as introduction, statement of the problem, scope and delimitation, and significance of the study. Also, I already discussed the introduction, so in this video, I will discuss the statement of the problem, scope and delimitation, and significance of the study. Statement of the problem. When the researchers already clarified the rationale, identified the degree of seriousness of the problem, provided literature review, and set the overall objective, the formulation of the heart of the thesis must be done. The opening paragraph of this section contains the general problem of the study. In the book Principles of Qualitative Research, Designing a Qualitative Study, Cresswell and Clark 2014, provided the following criteria in writing type purpose statement. First, it should use single and not compound sentences. This makes it easier for the readers to understand. Second, it should clearly express the purpose of the study. Through this, readers can understand the importance of conducting a research. Third, it should include the central phenomena. The main problem should be discussed and where it started. Fourth, it should use qualitative words like explore, discover, and explain. Fifth, it should identify the participants in the study. The persons involved in the problem should be identified to know who will benefit and who are affected. Sixth, it should state the research site. This helps the readers to know the location of the problem. Scope and delimitation. Let us define the scope of the study first. The scope of the study is determined primarily by the selection of variables that the research study will focus on. Defining the scope of the research requires careful selection of variables that will be investigated, as well as the attributes that will define and measure these variables. A variable refers to any characteristics that can have different values or traits that may vary across research participants. It is measured, controlled, and manipulated by the researcher. Examples are ages, gender, height, and weight. Variables have the following important characteristics. 1. Dependence. This refers to how the variable is considered in a cause and effect relationship. The second characteristic of variable is mutually exclusive. This means that a participant or respondent cannot possess two attributes of a variable. For instance, a person cannot be both male and female. Third characteristics is exhaustive. The researcher should consider all possible attributes of a certain variable. In identifying the possible responses of the participants to survey questions, the researcher must identify all possible answers or reactions. There are also 5 kinds of variables. These are 1. Dependent variables. Those characteristics that are changed, manipulated, or selected by the researcher. 2. Dependent variables are those that change because of changes to the independent variables. 3. Continuous variables. These are variables that may have an infinite number of values and may vary widely among the research participants. Examples are age and weight. 4. Discrete variables. These are variables that have specific limits to their value. Examples are income, number of children, or years of employment. 5. Categorical variables. These cannot be expressed in numbers, but are given in non-quantitative, descriptive terms. Examples are civil status and educational achievements. Let us now go to delimitation of the study. It describes the various limitations that arose during the design and conduct of the study. These include the characteristics of the research design and methodology that affected or influenced the findings. These limitations are constraints on certain aspects of the research, such as the interpretation of data and the applicability and usefulness of the result and findings. What is the difference between the two? The limitations of the study are defined primarily by the scope of the study. While the scope defines the variables that are the focus of the research, the delimitation of the study identifies the other variables that were not considered for the study. The limitations that are identified are only those that are significant or may have had an impact on the findings of the study. For instance, in the study on the effects social media influencers on consumer buying behavior, the researcher only focused on consumers in a specific place. Therefore, one limitation would be that the findings and conclusions are only applicable to the particular consumers selected for the study, the characteristics of respondents, as well as the time period and place where the research was done, are major variables that define the scope and delimitation. Here are some possible limitations. Sample size. It is a number of respondents from the total population. This determines the quality of data and the relationships that will be identified among variables. 2. Lack of available and/or reliable data. Missing and unreliable data will limit the scope of analysis and the ability of the researcher to determine meaningful trends and relationships among the data. 3. Lack of prior studies. This limits the effectiveness of the literature review and may limit initial understanding of the research problem. This can be a basis for identifying avenues for further research. 4. Chosen data collection method. Limitations in data collection instrument may affect the quality of data collected. Unclear or vague questions in a questionnaire will result to unclear or erroneous answers from the respondents. 5. Nature of the information collected. Relying on pre-existing data may impose limits on the researcher as he or she can no longer clarify a certain data. Apart from the first 5 limitations I mentioned, researchers also experience limitations in conducting the research. These are: 6. Access. The amount and quality of data will depend on the ability of researcher to access people, organization, libraries, documents, and design that provide him or her the best available data. 7. Time period. The length of time devoted to the study will affect almost all aspects of the research. It is advisable to select a research problem and design that gives way to a more manageable time period. 8. Bias. This refers to a way of viewing a certain thing, issue, or idea, and may be influenced by the researcher's background. Biases may affect the way the researcher states and defines the research problem, selection of research design and methodology, variables chosen, data collection methods, and interpretation of data. 9. Language. This may have an effect on data collection, especially if the researcher is involved with respondents that speak a variety of languages. This is especially a challenge in studies that involve documents that are written in different languages. Significance of the study. It discusses the benefits of the study to the society in general, and to its beneficiaries in particular. Research is a very noble undertaking if it makes significant contributions to the community or academic field or discipline where the researcher is affiliated with. That is why the significance of the study should clearly discuss the purpose that the research will serve to benefit everyone. This section describes the contribution of the study to the existing body of knowledge. The researcher has to identify the beneficiaries who will directly gain from the results of the study. In identifying the beneficiaries, the researcher should be specific in mentioning them in the paper, as well as the specific benefits that must be enumerated and explained if necessary. That is all for today's video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.